I'm 54 years of age and I'm in South Africa for the World Cup. And RTE rang me up and said, would I do 2 minutes on the Ireland-Wales game at Ellis Park? I got to start. The RTE thing was interesting because, like, I don't like Eamon Dunphy, and Eamon Dunphy doesn't like me. You know, we've never really gelled, not in a bad way, but we're just two very different people. And I used to get very upset when people sort of compared me to Eamon, you know, because I never thought I was controversial. And I don't think there's anything wrong with holding an opinion. I don't think you necessarily have to be right, but you have to believe you're right. I disagree with Joe Schmidt as a rugby coach. And that's not because I want to be controversial, it's just that's what I believe. I disagree with many of the things that Joe Schmidt does. And I'm entitled to hold that opinion. Doesn't mean if I'm right, you know, and I'm probably wrong, but I'm entitled to hold the opinion.
What do you think of people who say you're a sensationalist just for the sake of it?
See, that upsets me more than anything. You know, that upsets me more, almost than anything. Like, you know, this great phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but harsh words can never hurt me. I think harsh words can hurt. And that somebody would suggest, as Johnny Sexton famously did, that I lie. In an article in the Irish Times, Johnny said something like, oh, well, who pays attention to George? He says things that he doesn't even believe. Well, George does believe them. And George believes them passionately. You know, I never went on television, ever. I never went on radio, ever. Not once where I said something for the sake of saying it. Never. And that's why I'm hurt by something like that. I could be wrong. No harm being wrong. But don't tell me that I lied. Don't tell me that. Punditry is now different. If Sky or BT or any of them were looking for somebody to talk about rugby, I wouldn't be in the first 200. They have to be softer by definition. Modern day rugby pundits in particular are softer. Because of their nearness to the game, they are talking about their friends. You see, we weren't talking about our friends. I mean, I doubt if, in my time, if there was a player who would really talk to me. I doubt if there was a player who would nod to me in the street, or a coach, or whatever. They weren't very happy about what we said, but I wasn't their friend, and I didn't want to be their friend. It's much more difficult for modern day pundits who they're talking about their friends. And there's an awful match, you know, and they keep telling us it's a great match. Or like Munster losing by 30 points and there's 10 minutes left and the guy is saying, can we see another amazing Munster revival, you know? And you just know there's no chance. And so it's changed. By any yardstick, the game of rugby is worse now than it used to be, by any yardstick. I don't think anybody can persuade me that 36 consecutive rucks in which the scrum half passes not to a back but to a forward, who then crashes into somebody else, and that goes on 36 times. Is that attractive? I don't think it is. It also has a dramatic effect on the bodies of the players. Like, I have grandsons who play rugby, you know.
And are you comfortable with them playing rugby?
I'm not comfortable with them playing rugby, but what I would prefer is that they play rugby, but a game that is safer. And it could be made safer so easily. That's what drives me insane. The first thing is, we know, and World Rugby has suddenly announced with great noise and aplomb, the number of tackles above the waist are contributing to more injury. Ho, ho, ho! What an amazing statement. We've known that. We watch it, right? So all we do is, for schoolboys, We could put an imaginary belt on players and say, no tackles above the waist. So now suddenly, no tackles above the waist, we reduce a major area of damage. If you have 45 rucks, you've created 45 head-on tackles. Because it's ruck, scrum half, second row, bang. Ruck, scrum half, prop forward, bang. And so on, repeated 45 times. All head-on tackles. So if we, in schools football, if you have to have 5 players in a ruck, you have 5 and 5 is 10. You now only have 10 players from each side lined out. Now you have more space. You create more space, therefore the players can run that space. If you only have 2 people in a ruck, and remember, schools rugby is exactly the same as international rugby, exactly the same. If you have 2 and 2, that's 4. You have 26 people filling the pitch, so you have nowhere to run. So all we have to do in schools football is put more people into the ruck. There's now more space. Now we're running at space instead of running at bodies. And what we've done is to create a game that is running at people.
Have you fallen out of love with rugby?
Oh, I've fallen out of love with rugby, yeah. I've fallen out of love with rugby because it's very difficult for me, having studied it intently, the dangers of traumatic brain injury, to watch a match every single time I watch a match where I'm reasonably certain there has been some form of injury. I mean, I think it's quite interesting that in the first test against Australia in the summer, Keith Earls fails the HIA. He goes off, he doesn't come back, so clearly he's failed the HIA, and he plays the following week. I just don't understand. And interestingly, the following week, if you look at the match, Earls finishes up with a bandage on his head. Now, I don't know what happened, but he had to get a knock of some description, having failed a HIA the previous week. I don't get it. The best way to explain it is like getting a raw egg. Inside the egg, and if you shake that, the egg inside is bouncing off the hard shell. Now, that's your brain. Your brain's in a hard shell. So if something happens and your head goes, then your brain is bouncing off the hard shell. And there's a moment in the third test where Sexton takes the ball really flat and he goes really fast forward. Next one he gets hit in a tackle, I can't remember who it was, who hits him straight in his midsection. And just bang, and you see Sexton jolt. I mean, it's just an incredible jolt. And because I'm me, and because I care so much, and because I'm so passionate about it, I can see the eggshell out of Sexton's head bouncing around the place. And we're still in denial. It hurts me, it saddens me, it upsets me. I find myself watching rugby matches at almost every level, worrying about injury rather than worrying about watching the game. And that, like, that's no fun for me, you know? I think rugby now is very close to ancient Rome, you know, where like Nero had to have more and more Christians eaten by more and more lions, you know, in order to keep the mob happy. Now, talk about rugby supporters as a mob might be a bit strong, but what I mean is 25, 30,000 strong the RDS or 50,000 strong Lansdowne Road or whatever, and all we want is to win. So it doesn't matter how we win, as long as we win. I don't think winning is that important. Of all the teams, we are the least attractive, most successful, least attractive. I would talk about Irish rugby.